change the level of marijuana consumption, and we were all having a very good time embracing this. To us, it also seemed to be a direct relation of something that we had all very much admired and continued to admire a little bit earlier, which is the whole beatnik movement. I had read Allen Ginsberg's poem Howl in the school poetry reading competition back at Westminster, which caused considerable consternation, as you can imagine. But we'd all read The Naked Lunch and On the Road and everything. And we were aware that part of the whole hippie thing as well, with these great bookshops, like the City Lights bookshop in San Francisco, that was Ferlinghetti, which was part of the movement. So we decided to start one in London. We wanted to start a bookshop and eventually an art gallery. So with two friends, actually even Time magazine got influenced by the hippie phenomenon. Time magazine then was very conservative. And there's an odd connection there, because Time magazine's endorsement of the Beatles hippie era was this cover, and which is of some models that were actually made. And the strange connection is that was actually the models for the cover were commissioned from none other than Gerald Scarfe, who is, as some of you serious Beatle Connection fans will know, is my brother-in-law, who is married to Jane, and has been happily married to Jane for 40 or 50 years, God knows how long. So that's just a funny way these things all get linked in together. He did those brilliant pictures of the Beatles about their new incarnation in the hippie era. Meanwhile, we decided to start this bookshop with my friends Miles and John Dunbar. That's Miles in the middle, John Dunbar on the right. We formed a company called Miles, Asher and Dunbar because we liked the initials MAD. And we decided to call the bookshop Indica. We took the name Indica from a plant called Cannabis Indica. Any of you who are botanists in the audience may be familiar with that particular plant. A few botanists laughing. How else could they know the name? So that's what it looked like in the Bible. That was the logo. This is the outside of the shop on Southampton Road. I would work very often behind the counter when I wasn't out road on the tour. As you can see, it's got the same look as those San Francisco bookshops, posters, magazines everywhere. My sister Jane would help behind the counter too when she wasn't working. And actually her boyfriend helped us build those shelves behind her. It was very much sort of family operation. And then when we decided to open an art gallery as well, Paul kindly drew the map for us. That's my only piece of Paul McCartney artwork, is a map from a bookshop to an art gallery, neither of which are there anymore, but a little map of Piccadilly. So the art gallery, of course, we would run like most people run art galleries. We would close it for a day, get all the exhibition up and running, then have an opening for press and stuff, where you have like wine and cheese or whatever, for people to review it, and then finally, of course, you're trying to get people to buy it so the gallery can stay alive. But sometimes we would have a pre-official opening evening for friends, particularly friends who didn't necessarily want to come when the press were there. Now, one of the artists that we were determined to get was a Japanese-American performance artist by the name of Yoko Ono that we'd read about. And her art seems sufficiently wacky and interesting for our gallery, which we wanted to be seriously avant-garde. So John Dunbar, our art man, wrote to Yoko, found out to get in contact with her, asked her if she'd come and do an exhibition at our gallery. She said yes. We took an ad in the hippie newspaper for an opening, November 8 through 18, and you see there's an actual opening event. But we did the thing I'm talking about, which was having a pre-show opening for anyone who was interested in coming down. And I invited all my friends, of course, which at the time included the Beatles. And I'll let one of them tell you that.
Yoko was having an art show in London at a gallery called Indica's Gallery, and I heard this was going to be happening, so I went down the night before the opening. Also, the first thing that was in the gallery, as you went in, there was a white step ladder and a painting on the ceiling and a spyglass hanging down. I walked up this ladder and I picked up a spyglass, did balance and I see teeny little writing, just said yes. But if it said no, or, something nasty, like, rip off or whatever, I would have left the gallery there. Because it was positive, he said yes. I thought, okay, it's the first show I've been to that said something, warm to it. So then I decided to see the rest of the show, and that's when we met.
According to some very pessimistic Beatles stories, being partially responsible for John meeting Yoko by inviting him to that opening could make me partially responsible for the breakup of the Beatles. But I think I entirely reject such a simplistic explanation. And I'm sure all of you serious Beatle fans are far too sophisticated to give it any credence. Besides, Yoko is totally cool and I love her. She was cool and she's so cool. So I'm going to jump ahead now and wrap up the Peter and Gordon story, if I may, because while all this fun was going on, I was starting to produce records and do other stuff in the gallery and this. Gordon and I were gradually drifting into not working together. We never broke up. People go, when did you and Gordon break up? We actually never did. We found ourselves enjoying it a bit less. We weren't having hit records so frequently, and got a bit tired of working with each other. Gordon wanted to make solo records, and I had a lot of other stuff I wanted to do and so on. And so we went into kind of a hiatus, which we didn't expect to last for 38 years. But it did. Indeed, by the time it was in the 30-year range, I certainly never expected it to end. I didn't expect to sing with Gordon ever again. I thought I'd embarked on this whole other career, and that was it. And it was actually only due to a friend who had decided to do a benefit for Mike Smith. I'm sure most of you know Mike Smith. Yeah. He was a brilliant keyboard player and singer and songwriter from the Dave Clark Five, one of the very major bands of the British invasion. And Mike Smith had had a terrible accident and needed some financial help. And this friend of mine had the idea of doing a British invasion themed benefit in New York to raise that money. I'll let him explain the project to you.
I guess this was my wife's idea, when she heard I was doing this. Kathy, my wife, said, if you could get Peter and Gordon back together, that would be a real coup for this thing. I said, it's impossible. I made one call to a guy that I've known for years. He said, let me talk to my partner, I'll get back to you.
Paul explained that he decided to put together a 60s themed benefit to raise money to provide Mike with what he needed, and asked me what it would take for Gordon and I to get back together for one show. I thought about it really only for a moment and realized that it would be wrong to say no. So I called Gordon, asked him what he thought, and he shared my view. Clearly there was good reason to do it and no good reason not to do it.
There was no way I wouldn't have done it. I really do share with Peter that, I think Mike was a great musician and a great guy.
Called me back the same day. He said, people have been asking us to reunite for the last 37 years, but this one, for Mike Smith, I think we're going to have to do it.
I called him back and said, yes, we'll be there. So we did the benefit. It was at BB King's in New York. And we did the benefit, and we really enjoyed it. I confess before it, I was a bit cynical about, is it really right, to get back and do songs that you did years ago and probably can't do them quite as well, and it'll take a bit of practice, which we did. We practiced a lot to see if we could still sound like us, and we kind of could, and I enjoyed it. So at that point, we decided, look, if other opportunities come up for other gigs, we'll take them. And we did. So Gordon and I did quite a number of concerts together on various occasions. Whenever it fitted in with whatever we were both up to, I had a pretty intense schedule of production at the time, but whenever something fitted in, I did it, and always really enjoyed it. And I'm very glad we did, of course, because, as you know, we lost Gordon a few years ago, which meant there were only a few years after the 60s that we actually got to sing and play together again, and it was always fun. It must be that in the later years, Gordon was a bit grumpy. He was kind of a grumpy person by nature. And so he was always, we'd do a gig and he'd be moaning about his leg or his fingers or how he felt or this, that, the other. But in the end, his actual good-humored spirit and sense of humor remained entirely intact. So the Gordon we all loved was always still there, just under the surface of the grumpy, complaining Gordon. And the other thing that was there, just under the surface, unchanged, was his extraordinary voice. His voice, despite his various ailments, remained stupendously strong and beautiful, as did his love of great songwriters. He was always a real connoisseur of a great song, and remained so until the end of his life. I'll let him, in fact, tell you about one of his very favourite writers.
Anyone remember Buddy Holly? We decided that we needed a sort of ballady type record to go with our list of songs that we sing, and so we chose this one. Just you know will by and by no true love waits. Sometimes we'll sigh, sometimes we'll cry, and you'll know why. 'Cause you and I know true love waits. Throughout the day, our true love waits. Will bring us joy to share with those who rarely care. Sometimes we'll sigh, sometimes we'll cry, and you'll know why. 'Cause you and I know true love waits. Throughout the day,